Hello, hello, and welcome to Climbing Sideways, our weird little show where we ask anyone and everyone, what do you do and how did you get there? I'm your host, Adriana de Cervantes, and I am thrilled to say that this is our 10th episode. A tiny note before we jump in, we have made the decision to wrap season 1 with episode number 13. I would love to hear from anyone what they liked about season 1 and what they might like to see in season 2. Okay, back to regularly scheduled programming. Our guest today is my badass friend, Cait Maher. Cait is a hairstylist, a quilter, and a seamstress, and an enthusiastic motorcycle adventurer. I am constantly inspired by Cait, and I think you will be too. All right, let's get to it. Here's my chat with Cait. Hi, hello. How are you? It's so good to see you.
So great to see you.
Oh my gosh. What have you been up to today?
Enough, I should say. Today's been kind of easy. I finished piecing a quilt top this morning.
Lovely.
That's just slightly behind schedule, but it was nice to kind of wake up and have an easy morning and just dive into something that already has, the steps laid out on it.
I am with you on the easy morning. I had a call get canceled. And so after my kids got on the bus to school, I took a nap.
I love that. Oh, that's so nice.
It was much needed. Okay, so I am particularly excited for this interview because I have this vivid memory of having a really fun chat with you for one of my school projects in which I was required to interview creative people. And as I was putting together my questions and doing my prep work for this interview, I was like, that assignment, that project was one of the early seeds of me realizing that I wanted to do this and that I really love having these conversations with creative people. And so thank you so much for being here. And I'm feeling very serendipitous about this full circle moment of it.
Absolutely. I was thinking about that this morning too, kind of thinking back to that conversation we had about left brain versus right brain and where the creative process kind of borrows from each. And that, I think about that every once in a while when I'm kind of going through my creative process and looking at it as an actual process and not just following the path of, oh, these colors are fun or repeating a process or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. And I remember talking to you a couple weeks ago thinking that or maybe I had posted something where it's just somehow everything comes together and you don't really realize where it is until it's done. And I'm this is me in a couple weeks on your podcast when
hell yes,
all of the things that I was stressed about or working on and trying to piece together are suddenly real and in my living room. And here I am staring at my project for the next hopefully couple years. And yeah, sometimes you just have to trust that everything's going to be fine. And especially that's kind of how I run my creative life anyway, is well, I got to find out because if I don't, I'll be mad about it, I'm sure. But sometimes the process of finding out includes clearing all of the furniture out of your living room and putting a giant industrial quilting machine in it just to see what happens.
I have loved watching every bit of the journey that you are sharing on social media. Okay, before we fully dive in, I have now started to mix in folks into the guest list that I don't know, but you and I do know each other. So would you like to tell the listeners how we know each other?
Through motorcycles, which is super fun. I have quite a few friends on the East Coast and would kind of make this pilgrimage out to Babes Ride Out, East Coast, which is this women's motorcycle camp out. It happens in New York. And that's how we met. We have this kind of vast friend group that's kind of scattered, honestly, throughout the country. And it was one of those, you connect with people because you see something, some kind of spark or creativity or something that matches up. And you're you're my people. We're friends now. And it's just kind of an incredible thing that, the thing that brought us together is motorcycles, but we connect on so many other levels beyond that, and that is really, really incredible. I try and spend quite a bit of time out in New York or Pennsylvania or wherever, somewhere out there every summer. And so I just got, this kind of bonus group of friends of, I might only see you once a year, but it's a really fun weekend, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody who, people talk a lot about it being difficult to make friends in adulthood. And I'm like, yeah, most of my adult friends came through motorcycles or something that was sort of like motorcycle tangential. So I think it's just like you need an activity. You need to like go find the people who are doing the same weird thing that you're doing and go meet them where they are. But the other thing that is particularly great about motorcycles, specifically women who ride motorcycles, is there's actually this like huge crossover. So many of us are creative and small business owners or solopreneurs or whatever. Like, yes. I don't know what it is about the brain chemistry of like, I will be willing to be on two wheels and partake in this high risk activity. And also I'm a creative person who's just going to go out and figure out how to make a life doing this thing that I love doing.
Absolutely.
Outside of motorcycles too.
There has to be some sort of correlation there of like, yeah, learning is uncomfortable or getting through the process is uncomfortable, but the outcome is worth it. And I could say the same for pushing through and making creative things and like making art as a living. Really hard. You really have to get yourself in and out of like situations that other people probably wouldn't put themselves in. But I'd say the same for motorcycles. You can kind of be like a weekend rider, just like you can take an art class here and there, or you can dive straight in and set a little chunk of your life aside to go chase whatever it is out on the road, whether it's on-road or off-road or on big trips or just long weekend trips or commuting even. Like, you really have to make a conscious decision to choose it. And I think the same goes for creativity and art and making a life out of those things.
Yeah, 100%. I hadn't thought about it that way. I love that. Oh, fantastic. I love it. And if you are ready, I will dive right in.
Yeah, let her
with
rip.
Our questions.
Let's go.
Okay. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
So I think my earliest memory of someone asking me that, I wanted to be an artist. Couldn't even tell you if I had like a medium because that didn't really cross my mind as like a tiny child. But I knew that I loved art classes and I loved learning what colors could do or what lines can do. And that was like maybe most of what I would choose. So if my parents were like, oh, do you want to, join the soccer team or you want to take art classes? I was taking art classes. And sometimes I didn't have I had to do a sport. So my sport was like track because running by myself sounds really safe. I would always get like hit with a soccer ball or like fall or something like that. And I was just not really I was kind of clumsy. So art was just this incredible space where I could express myself without getting injured, which is kind of nice to have as a kid. But yeah, since I was little, like I'm sure there's so many photos of me painting, in the summers, that's what I would do. I would paint or I would draw or I would sew. Actually, I learned to sew very, very young. I think I was 7 or 8. My grandma taught me where she would do the pedal, but I would, push the material through and we would make costumes for Halloween or we would make, doll clothes was a big one. I don't think I
love that.
Yeah, I didn't think about it as like when I grew up to be a marketing person or I didn't actually, in my real career, I'm a hairdresser. I didn't even consider that until like maybe a week or two before I was in beauty school, which is a whole different other story. But yeah, it's been quite the journey, even though I would consider myself consistently being an artist since I was a kid. So it's kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy of if you continue to do art, then you are an artist.
I was going to say, you just referenced the stylist as your quote unquote real job. And I would challenge you that they are both your real jobs.
Yes, they are. I actually think that like the things that I do for work are like 3 part-time jobs in a trench coat. I could never fully commit to like one job as a career forever full time. I know that about myself. I know how I work. I know how, and I remember talking about this with you, it was well over a year ago, I think, but I just know that I do best when I can kind of split my time between other things because then I don't lose the passion and I don't lose the motivation for them. And realizing that I could never be full-time, sit in one place, say hi to the same people every single morning, like I'd lose my mind. So I started kind of looking around to see, okay, what could I split my time between? If I'm a hairdresser most of the time, and that is where how I pay my bills and fund all of the things that I do, like what else do I want to do with the other time, and how can I make it meaningful and hopefully make money a little bit, at least enough to fund it itself, For a while, that was motorcycles and events. I was running motorcycle markets. I was helping out with events. I was doing freelance work. I was writing. I was doing a little bit of everything. And it was just enough to keep me creative, keep me motivated, keep me in the hobby. It kind of helped fund itself. So, I would work and then I'd get tires, or I would work and then do some creative things and I'd get gear. And so it did absolutely help. And then right around COVID, when I couldn't do either, I had this like existential crisis of like, if I am not these things, being a hairdresser, being a, cross-country motorcycle rider and an event coordinator, then who am I? And I kind of fell back on the thing that I've always done, which is sewing. And that literally catapulted me into sitting here with a long arm machine in my living room.
Amazing.
Direct pipeline. It's incredible.
Okay, I do want to dig a little deeper. You said you wanted to be an artist as a kid and you were really into art. Did you have any examples in your life of someone that you knew was making their life's work as an artist? Like could you see that modeled anywhere, or you just had this idea in your head that it was possible?
I don't think that I did. I had a lot of family members who were artists, but it was secondary to, they weren't making money off of it. They were doing it as a hobby. My mom was a really good painter. My grandpa, I don't know that he was ever like an artist himself, but he was the one who was like taking me to the Art Institute in Chicago as a kid and paying for my art classes, and like definitely inspired me to kind of dabble in that instead of other things, just because I was exposed to it a lot as a kid. I had, an uncle who's a photographer, and I had people who were just like almost what I like to call like domestically creative. So like they could make curtains or make the floral arrangements or reupholster, their things, but that was never really like an income source. It was more of like I don't have the means to afford to pay someone else to do it, so I can do it myself, which has absolutely informed most of my life. I am very much I'll look at something and I'll look at what it takes to make it and think, of course I can do that, and then just do it. And even if it's not amazing, it's worth more because I've taken the time to do it. And sometimes it even costs exactly the same, but now I have that skill and that's worth it for me. But I guess I didn't really have, at least no one in my immediate family, which is actually a large number of people. But it just kind of was like this mythical thing for me of like, I want to be an artist. Who knows what that means? But I just know I want to create. And it's, like even thinking back, I don't think I had like one discipline I needed to pursue. Like I didn't think I want to be a painter or I want to be a drawer or I wanted to, I just wanted to be an artist. And that absolutely holds to, I feel like everything that I do now, including like my work as a hairdresser, I'm an artist there.
Absolutely.
I am a colorist. I work with shape and geometry and the color wheel all day long. And I really thrive in that. And I really love using that kind of like art knowledge in my actual physical haircutting and coloring work.
For sure. So then let's move kind of chronologically. You're a kid, you want to be an artist. You are in high school, that I'm guessing the sort of the interests and the through line are the same. You were sewing with your grandmother, you're making clothes, you're making all kinds of things. And then you had to make a decision about where to go to school. Where did you go?
Yes. So there's a little side note in there in that I leaned real hard into the sewing in high school. I was a theater kid, so I was doing the costumes for a lot of the productions and knew that at that point, I was like making my friends' prom dresses. I was making costumes for myself. I was making costumes for like back when Harry Potter was coming out in the theaters for the first couple years of it existing. And so I was making like costumes for the movie premieres at midnight, that kind of thing. So
amazing.
I decided I needed and wanted to go into costume design in college. So in order to, like, my portfolio, I should say, for getting into the school that I got into, which is the only one I applied in that major. And I think I applied for other schools as just like a general, like I just, NIU, everyone can get in. I went to school in Illinois and grew up outside of Chicago. So it's kind of like state schools or this one teeny tiny fine arts school in the middle of nowhere. So in order to build a portfolio for that, I made a couple things and then somehow convinced the musical director to let me costume the whole musical that year by myself, which was insane.
I love it.
Because of course it was Brigadoon and it was just plaid skirts, but I made like 40 of them and made like a...
What's Brigadoon? I don't know what that
is. This like terrible Scottish musical. I don't know. Look it up. It's
okay.
I'm sure there's like a 70s remake that's very campy. Couldn't even tell you what the musical is about. I just know I sewed almost every costume. The men's kilts I did not make because we rented those. Almost every single other, townswoman or the kids or the lead, like I made all of those costumes. I have a photo somewhere of, the whole stage production on stage. And that was my portfolio. So of course I got into costume design school at Millikan.
Amazing.
Which is in Decatur, Illinois, don't go there. The school is really great. It has a great theater program, great fine arts program. It is solely a fine arts school. So I went there and loved the costume design, but did not love the politics of being in theater programs. And so I pivoted and said, okay, well, I still want to make things, so that's fine. I can still take costume design classes, but I'm going to change my major to art and psychology because I thought art therapy was a great use of my skills. Psychology was really interesting to me. Art has always been a part of my life. So I figured that if I was going to do something, it would have been that. And it turns out double majoring as someone who's not a natural student is not great. So I think I failed out at some point. Just wasn't quite doing it, wasn't quite getting there, was showing up to all the art classes, but like the psychology classes, man, I would fall asleep every single class. I just could not keep myself awake and pointed at, the information. It was really, really like a huge struggle for me. So I think I moved like a town away, decided I was just going to get a job. So I like applied at like the TJ Maxx or something, and then had a interview somewhere else, maybe one of the department stores. Thinking like retail's fine until I can figure out what I want to do. I did maybe a semester community college in between just to get some gen eds done. And I remember going for a haircut at the local beauty school because my hair had not been cut. I probably was cutting it myself, which was not a good thing. And I asked the gal cutting my hair, why did you decide to be in beauty school? She goes, well, I was an art major in college, but I really wanted to work. So this lets me be creative and I'm able to work right away. And it was like this just brain explosion happened. And I was like, what? You can do that? So after my haircut, I signed up for a tour of the school. And a week later, I was in class. And
amazing.
I mean, it was one of those things where like I called a parent and I was just like, hey, I think I want to do this. And they were like, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't you think of that before? And I'm like, what? Okay, so it turns out hands-on learning is a thing for me. So I was like top of the class. Me and my other friend, Katie, so it's Cait and Katie. We had the highest attendance, the two of us, and then the highest grades. In the whole, I did so much better in beauty school than I had ever done in any semester in college, all of the years that I went. And sure enough, I was able to work right away. I had a job at a salon before I even finished my classes and my license. Got my license, showed up the next day, started cutting hair, and have worked for myself in the salon business ever since. And it's been about 15 years.
Can you say more about the hands-on learning piece?
Yes. So I love reading. I can retain a lot of information, but sitting through lectures and like getting tested on it, not really a thing for me. My brain kind of like tunes out. It has all the information already. It already knows how to use it. It doesn't want to sit there and like regurgitate it. So the second you put tools in my hands, it's like I can apply those skills into action and it solidifies those things over and over and over again. I can do one haircut and then repeat it forever. I can do, the color techniques. Like I understood how it was supposed to work, where the highlights are supposed to go, the angle at which you put them in on the head, how that affects everything. The second I do it once, I can repeat it forever. And it was like one of the first times that I was able to directly learn a technique, see it done, repeat it on a client, like on a doll head, and then try it on a client, all within like a few weeks of each other. Whereas in college, it's a lot of repetition, it's a lot of studying, it's a lot of memorization with no tangible outcome. There's no, like, yes, you gain skills and you gain, I guess, if it's showing up for a class is a skill, maybe. But it was just something that checked different boxes for me and just anchored these things into my head immediately. And the same things work with sewing. I can see someone draft a pattern, I can draft it myself, and then I know how to do that for the rest of my life. A lot of the patterns that I use for clothing are self-drafted. I've actually never taken a drafting class. Like, it's one of those things where, I don't know, my brain just like picks up certain pieces of it, of the process, and just, that's it. We have it forever.
Yeah. There's got to be something to the tangibility of it, because what you're talking about is actually reminding me of like confidence building, that to see a end result that is exciting and beautiful and all of that, when it's physical and tangible, is very different than just seeing a good grade on a screen or a paper.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I think you would have made a fantastic art therapist. And there's almost a little bit of irony in like just the fact that the way that you had to be tested on the information, because like art therapy is all of those things. Like at its core, art therapy is understanding that you need to be hands-on and that is what's good for you.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like I'm still kind of pointed in that direction, not in like I'm never going to go back to school. My credits have long expired. I have no drive to hang around with like early 20-somethings while I pursue any sort of degree. I'm past that point in my life. But I mean, I have had conversations with my clients in the hair salon where they're like, wow, this feels like a therapy session. And I'm like, cool. There's probably something behind that, learning those interpersonal skills and learning like how to express yourself creatively through those, connecting with people through those. I think that's all part of it. I don't know that that's exactly, it's not like there's a psychology section in beauty school, but maybe there should have been.
Yeah. And it's so personal.
It's super personal.
I'm going in and you're going to give me something that I'm going to wear every single day.
Yes.
And I want to love it.
Yes. Like I asked so many questions in the consultation that aren't just what products do you use and how do you want to style your hair? It's like questions about your life. Do you go to hot yoga? Do you want to put it up? Do you want to use clips? Do you wear it in a hat ever? What does your routine look like so I can give you the right tools and maybe let you in on some insight on how better to do it? Or maybe you're washing it every single day after hot yoga when you could rinse it every other day or something. And suddenly your hair's not breaking off at the ponytail anymore. And like, I want them to feel as good in their hair as they do every day, as they do when they walk out. So a lot of that is really discovering who they want to be. Do you want to be someone who just can like wake up and like brush their hair and have it be kind of tousled but flawless looking? Awesome. That's not the haircut you have right now, but can we get you there? Are you open to that? So learning who these people are and then making them look on the outside how they feel on the inside is like my journey of hairdressing in a nutshell.
It's very selfless.
Yeah.
It's very selfless and it's very human that you're like, it's your
so.
work. It's your work, but you know that you're not the person who has to wear it every day.
Yeah. I feel like that is definitely who I'd always wanted to be as a hairdresser. And that's who I've kind of like made it my mission to be. And I was going to say, there's some clients, especially going back to like this feels like a therapy session. Most of my clients, we just dive straight into like deep stuff, no surface level talk. If I never have a how's the weather or traffic outside conversation, I will be the happiest I've ever been. Like I'll have someone sit down and just be like, listen to what my mother-in-law said. And I'm just like, girl, yes, mixing color, getting it on there. Tell me the worst things and I will hype you up and make you feel better about it. Like I can validate all day long. But no surface level. I want a deep dive immediately.
Totally. Okay, so you go to beauty school, get a job almost immediately. You're doing this thing. When do the other pieces come back into it? When do you start riding motorcycles? When do you get back to sewing and making things? Or are you sewing and making things in the background this whole time? Yeah, when do the other pieces come back?
It all kind of happens a little bit at the same time. While I was in that first salon job that I had, I was still sewing. I was making costumes for a burlesque troupe, which was a lot of fun. Central Illinois. So no one saw me, I promise, because I was in the burlesque troupe at the same time. I was not very good. I can't follow a tune or a beat or whatever. Anyways, it was fun. It was, there's a lot of things going on in my life. I moved back up to the suburbs of Chicago, where I grew up. Right around then, I got a moped because I was like, motorcycles sound like a thing I could try. No one in my life rode motorcycles. I don't even think I had maybe like a friend who rode, but like never near me. I don't think I'd been on the back of one, maybe one time. And I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I could probably do this, which is just kind of how my life works. Like I get an idea, I take one step and then I take 50 steps. So I get a moped, the pedal to start, 1980 Honda Hobbit. So it's 50cc. You don't need a license in Illinois.
Adorable.
Yeah, it's so cute. It was so cute. Someday I'll get another one. But so I had this like, okay, cool. Onto wheels, awesome. Going fast hadn't happened yet because the thing only goes 25. But I was like, this is awesome. And then I have this tiny little seed of opportunity that drops into my lap. I come to California for the first time. I get a sunburn, I go to the beach, I eat seafood, I fly home, and I'm like, damn it, I need to live there. And within a year, I had sold everything that I had and moved to California with just whatever was in my car, whatever would fit. And I knew that if wherever I needed to be to start my hair journey, my salon business, I just knew I needed to like stay in one place. So might as well stay in a really nice, beautiful place that doesn't have winter to do it. So I moved out here.
Did you have connections in California? Did you know anybody?
I knew 2 people. I don't know. There was like one girl that I went to college with who was actually my sorority little sister, who I came to California with the first time. We drove out. She graduated. She's like, hey, I have to get my car back to California. Do you want to come with? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Little did I know she wasn't going to let me drive, and we went the speed limit across the country, which is the only time I've ever done that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely
not. She was a very sweet girl. So she lived up in Thousand Oaks, which is very far from where I wanted to live, which was Costa Mesa or Newport Beach. And then right around the time that I was moving, I met some kid that went to my high school who was actually in my sister's grade. And just because it was like Christmas, I was running my mouth at the bars and I was like, I'm moving to fucking California. Fuck you guys. Which is not what I said. I was a very nice, sweet, very quiet, meek girl at the time. And he was just like, oh, I live out there. You should come visit, or stay with me when you're going to go interview for jobs. And I said, that sounds great. I think I ended up dating him briefly just because I was like, well, you're there. So that's fine.
Why not?
It didn't last any more than a couple months, but I got out here, stayed with him for a little while, got an apartment. I found a job because I couldn't transfer my license yet. So my hairdressing license, I needed to retake the test in California or wait a year. And so I signed up to retake the test and they gave me a test date that was a year out. So I was like, come on.
No.
I could have just waited, but it's fine. And I got a job as a personal assistant for this very, very wealthy family who I can't name.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was interesting because suddenly here I was living in Huntington Beach, driving to Newport, driving onto a private island or walking actually onto a private island and then driving their cars and their kids and grocery shopping for them and kind of seeing like the fancy side of Orange County. And that, but very much not living in that fancy side. I would, drive a half an hour inland every day to get home and just kind of like had this little idea of like, actually, I can make this work. Like whatever this happens to be out here, I've worked in bars, I've bartended, I've waitressed, I've worked retail. I can do absolutely anything. I just have to like kind of stay put, start building my hair, clientele, and then everything will be fine. And that's exactly how it went. So in between that, I was still sewing very briefly. I had my sewing machine. I had my setup. I had some things that I was making. I was reupholstering a lot of furniture because I had no furniture. So I needed furniture. So I'd buy something and reupholster it or refinish it. So there was creative pieces in there. At some point within like a year or two, I bought a motorcycle. I didn't know anyone else who rode. I learned how to ride by myself from YouTube. And it was like a real slow burn there because I didn't know anyone. So I would go and putt around my neighborhood.
YouTube is a crazy place to learn how to ride a motorcycle, Cait.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in power sports a little bit. I grew up snowmobiling.
Okay.
So I had a snowmobile from when I was 8 years old until high school. And so at no point was it like let someone else fix it if something happened. It was like, that's yours, take care of it. So I already had this kind of background of like what to troubleshoot if something's not working. And then independent of all of this stuff, I used to work for my daddy as an electrician. So I had this, I essentially did like an electrical apprenticeship before I went to college. So I could replace the ends of wires and I could troubleshoot figuring out if something wasn't working. I just kind of had all this like other little background knowledge of like motorcycles did not seem that intimidating. So I have this vintage motorcycle. I replaced some of the wiring. I fixed, one of the turn signals. I buy parts. I learned how to clean the carb out. I learned how to do all of these things. I learned what the parts are so I could go to the shop and ask them to replace the parts, do the research, figure it out, have the outcome you want. Like that has always been a huge part of just my process, right? Same with everything. Same with moving to California, same with art, same with quilting.
Yeah, it's big figure it out energy. Yes, I love it.
Because no one's going to do it for me. If they are, I won't learn the thing. I need something in my hands. I don't know. Right around the time that I had a motorcycle, I decided I wanted to try quilting. And I'd made maybe a couple little tiny baby quilts for one of my nieces or one of my cousins. And then because I can not just chill, I bought a kit. And I bought this kit that had all the pieces and most of them were already cut out, but you kind of had to subcut a couple things. And I made a quilt for my mom. And it turned out so good. It turned out amazing. So I was like, of course I can do this. So I bought another pile of fabric and I made 3 more quilts.
From the outside, I would say it appears, and again, obviously social media is such a tiny little sliver of reality, but I feel like I have such respect for the way that you have crafted and curated your life in this way. And so from the outside, it looks like you're basically like, well, I want to go do that thing. So I'm just only going to save as much money as I need to save to go do that thing. So like, okay, here's how much money I need to go like to Italy and ride motorcycles in Italy. And I just love that. And so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, like crafting your life piece. And that I think it's the best example of work to live, right? You like your job, you enjoy your job, but you are in no way, shape, or form letting your quote unquote job prevent you from all the other things that you want to do in your life.
Yes, I fully agree. And sometimes I kind of realize I'm drowning in whatever that is and go, oh, fuck. Because yeah, it is kind of insane to literally save up and stockpile cash in a jar. Because I mean, there's also cash in the bank, but in the jar, I really can't spend it, you know? Or have a goal in mind.
Wait, why can't you spend it in the jar?
Because it lives on my bedside table and I'm never, like, it doesn't come to the store with me, so I can't spend it. Like, it hides. I hide it.
And you, okay. So you just have the self-control of like, stuff goes in, stuff never comes out. And then because it's not in the bank account.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I feel like I have like 3 different systems for like how I spend money and how I save money and what that goes to. And none of them are conventional. I can't just like put it in a different savings account. Absolutely not. Because then I'll be like, oh, look, free money. And then I'll go buy something silly. Or think, oh, I did so well. I saved up a couple grand and now I just have that. And then it eats at me and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I should go to Hawaii. I've never been. I have to go. Part of my journey is I have to go everywhere. So like, here we go. I have this money saved. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, I go to Hawaii next week. Do I need cash for that? Turns out, yes. And that's where the bedside jar of money comes in, where I'm like, cool, I have $500. That's my budget for spending a weekend in Hawaii, which actually I ran out. So,
yes, Hawaii is very expensive.
Hawaii is very expensive. But it's kind of wild. Sometimes I just decide that I need to go do things, whether it's a cross-country trip or an international trip or a motorcycle ride or something. I decide I need to do something. I look at how much it's going to be. I decide I can find that, not save that or make that or what, I can find it and just make it happen. And unfortunately, it's worked so many times that I just assume that I can do that.
Well, you can. Yes.
Yeah.
You've proven the hypothesis to be true.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was talking to one of my friends about my work for this summer because this summer looks a lot different for me. The gal who owns the salon that I work at is going on maternity leave pretty much the whole summer, June to September. And I am going to be absorbing a lot of her clients during those months, which means I can't go on my annual 6-week-long motorcycle trip that I usually space out throughout the summer, where I go like 2.5 weeks and come home and work for a week and then go for another 2 weeks. And then like get my bike somewhere else and come home and work and then go back and get it and keep going. Like usually I've done that every summer for the last 6 years. You know, it's been kind of this annual pilgrimage of like Cait and the road, like where are we going? And the answer was always everywhere. And now that I've kind of gone everywhere in the US, the answer is going to change for next year. But this summer I have to stay put. And one of my friends was like, oh, that's great. Like you can save some money and then next time you go on trips, you don't have to like hustle and sell quilts beforehand. And I'm like, interesting. Is that what it looks like from the outside? Okay. All right. She probably didn't even mean it in a way that was anything to do with, but she was like, oh, wow, this is going to be so much easier for you in the future. And I remember thinking like, oh, yeah, I guess I do kind of like make a quilt and raffle it off so I've got some extra gas money or something like that. But I don't need to do that.
Yeah, inside the question, there's an assumption that the way that you're doing it is, for whatever reason, not the way that you want to be doing it or somehow stressful. And it doesn't sound like that's actually the case.
No, it's like
you continue to do it because it's working for you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Or, I mean, half the time that I make quilts and raffle them, they're for other things. It's either a donation to something. I think aside from this last year, I've made quilts for like Babes Ride Out raffles for the last like 6 or 7 years, sometimes multiple per year. But I'll make them for other people and they'll raffle them off to raise money for like Rally for Rangers or other things inside of the motorcycle industry or community, I should say, that, you know, I have this skill. I've got lots of material. It doesn't take anything but just like my effort to throw something together. But then it might mean like someone raising $700 for one of their causes. Like that's really, really cool. And I love that I can give in that way because historically I can't just like donate $700 to something. But it is a way that I can give back to the community in a way that doesn't take money out of my change jar, you know?
Totally.
But yeah, it definitely kind of made me think about that a little bit. Not in a way where I'm probably going to change anything.
Well, I think it just is a perfect example of live the life that you want to live, not the life that you think other people will respond positively to.
That's very true. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so this is also, I think, a good segue into where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you think about the future in that way a lot, or are you just kind of perpetually winging it?
I wouldn't say perpetually winging it, but I feel like because my life is kind of broken up into so many different sections, like I see myself doing hair in 5 years. Hopefully I've been in the same salon for 9 years. Like that's something on its own.
So we've got your hairstylist, you're doing all the quilting stuff, you're motorcycling and traveling. I feel like there's something else that I'm missing.
I don't know that there is really.
Okay.
Some other things like I'll dabble in every once in a while writing. I freelanced for a couple like motorcycle media groups before. I dabble in event things. I haven't done that in a year, so I feel like it's kind of not in my forward thinking, but if someone was like, "Hey, Cait, we need help with this event," I would say yes without hesitating. So like, I feel like there's always kind of things in orbit that don't exactly come around until I need them. And then they can like safely go way back out there and just kind of exist elsewhere. But between, you know, the sewing, the motorcycles, and the hairdressing, that's kind of my three big ones that I spend the most time on. And then there's 5 minutes left over at the end of each week where I can like make something tasty or like eat sushi and or hang out with my friends, you know, there's just so much, and there's so much I want to do. If we could have an extra day in the week to do none of those things, like, I don't know, probably go to the beach. I'm not sure.
I'm a beach loving bean.
Heck yes.
What advice would you give somebody who is interested in doing something similar to what you are doing? And it could be all three together, or it could be just one of those. But if you could kind of, you know, share some advice that you think would help other folks.
I think that something that I've kind of internally recognized was that, and this comes from a space of like turning a hobby into something a little bit more than a hobby and actually making a little bit of something off of it. Because I've done that with motorcycles and I've done it with sewing, is before you go all in or carve time out or take one extra day off work or something like that, I would just spend a lot of time making sure that you can do that thing every single day without getting sick of it. And if you love it, and it's been a year, like I remember sewing almost every single day after work, after hanging out with friends, before hanging out with friends, before trips, after trips. Like if I knew that I could commit to sewing something almost every single day, and it went on for months and months and months, and I was still so excited and still so inspired and so like it kept me going. It kept that flame kind of kindling. And I'd get to the end of a project and think like, okay, I need to take a little bit of a break. And then I'd be out somewhere and see something and say, wow, I think I can make that. And here it is reignited again. Like it's okay to take a little step away from it to make sure that you're doing other things or just taking a little bit of a breather or giving yourself space to kind of be remotivated or re-inspired by something. I mean, that's probably nestled in with the make sure you can do it every day and still like it, still like who you are while you're doing it. You know, if I had told myself that, I don't know how many years ago about anything, I would have like rolled my eyes and not believed anything. But it's the same thing I did with motorcycles, because after I had, you know, my vintage bike and I finally met other people who were riding bigger bikes, and I knew I wanted a bigger bike. And right around that same time, my car was dying. And I thought, okay, well, I can buy a new car, or I can just see if I really like motorcycles, like enough to ride every day, like to work or to wherever I needed to be. And then, so I committed to riding every single day for 30 days. Rode to work, rode to the grocery store, rode to the mall, had a little backpack, put all my stuff in it. And suddenly it was like 3 months later, and I was like, oh, that went by real fast.
Yep.
And in that time, the car was sold for scrap probably. And I decided that, I do want a big motorcycle. I think I went and bought that, my first Moto Guzzi right after that. It took about 3 months, scraped the money together, bought that Moto Guzzi. And at the time I didn't own a car. So I was going from like my vintage Kawasaki that I had a borrowed Yamaha SR 400, which is an incredible bike to be learning on, because the second you get anything that just has a power button, you're like, oh, thank God. Because it's kickstart only. And I know some people who have that bike still, and I'm just like, girl, there's buttons for that. Come on. But it was the same thing. Can I commit to this every day? Am I going to want to ride when it's raining or when it's windy or when it's cold? And I think I went 5 years without a car, and I don't miss it. I love getting on the motorcycles. It rained on the way to work yesterday. I mean, it was SoCal rain, so it barely was spitting. But at the same time, I can ride that bike across country and do a 1,000-mile day and wake up the next morning and get back on that bike to go to work and be like giggling down the street. I loved it. It changed so much of my life. And if you have something like that, where you can commit to it every single day, you can do it whether you're happy or sad or stressed or tired or not feeling good, and you can still find this carve out a little bit of motivation to do it, then that's going to be worth it for you. And that's going to be the thing that's like, okay, this is going to be like the effort you put in is going to come back in rewards 10 times over because you like doing it. If you would do it for no money, if you would do it then yes, that's going to be your answer right there.
And that feels like the perfect balancing point for the attitude that you have towards the other things, which is just like, oh, I like this, I'm just going to go do it.
Absolutely.
So perfect. Okay. Anything else that you want to share with us? Life, work, striking a good balance. It literally could be anything. TV shows you're watching.
You know, I do watch some shows. Sometimes I'm a sucker for historical drama. Give me the costumes, That's usually what I'm watching it for.
Or books you're reading.
I am very much on the fantasy fairy smut train.
Yeah.
But I love reading. I love losing myself in those kind of fantasy worlds. That kind of totally informs the things that I watch. Recently, I'm on the last 50 pages of the entire Witcher series, which is a lot. There's a lot of words in that. But I loved the show, and that was really good. I've never played the game because I don't think video games are real, but that's kind of it. I don't own a TV. I haven't in over a decade. I watch things on my laptop, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I kind of live in this little bubble where it's just constantly surrounded by creative shit that I've done and am just continually like recycling the motivation and the creativity and the inspiration. Like I also have a lot of art from my friends too. Like behind me, there's this amazing art quilt from my friend Sarah. And I love that. I don't know if you can
what's
see.
It say?
It says, "We stitch together the seams that others rip apart." And I think it's absolutely incredible. I think that that's exactly what a lot of people in creative roles do, right? You see something, you are aware of something out there, you create because of it or to speak on it or to amplify it. And it brings people together because of the creativity that you dump into this world, or just makes it a little bit more human, or like it chips away the kind of shiny perfectness of it and makes it seem way more real. And that's what I would love to keep doing with any of my art, I feel like that's what I do with motorcycles. I'm not trying to be like the coolest girl out there looking awesome on like a sexy bike. I'm trying to do the things despite wearing adventure gear and being on a bike that isn't really made for long distance. And here it has 100,000 miles on it. Like chipping away at that, like not everything has to be perfect, but you do have to show up. You know, that's what I want. That's what I want in my art. That's what I want in my career. That's what I want in my life. That's what I prefer in my friends. I want it to be real and deep, you know?
Yeah, there's so much more value in the thing and the making of the thing than there would be if it was perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Which is funny because I say you're perfect a lot, but so I do that on Instagram and I have like a cup of coffee or a latte or something. And it's always like a cool little picture, maybe a treat. And then it says, "You're perfect." And sometimes it's like gas station coffee. Sometimes it's camping coffee. And it's like, actually, the point is the cup of coffee in your hand is why it's perfect. It has nothing to do with the art or the cup or the blend or how much it cost or where you are. It's just the one that's there. And that's why it's perfect. And it was, started doing it during COVID when I did not feel perfect. I felt like a lump of unorganized clay that was crying on her couch drinking rosé, because if I'm not a hairdresser, then who am I? You know? And it's like so many other things. Shut up. You're perfect.
Thanks so much for listening to Climbing Sideways. Go follow Cait on Instagram at Cait Made That, spelled CAIT, Made That. And you can also follow her quilting journey on Instagram at CaitMade_shop. As always, many thanks to Zubin Hensler for all the mixing and original music for the show. If you're on Substack, follow us there, climbingsideways.substack.com. And of course, we're on Instagram and Threads at Climbing Sideways Pod. Please subscribe, share, write us a review. I'm also working on postcards, so if you want a handwritten note from me, send me a DM or an email, climbingsidewayspod@gmail.com. We'll be back in a couple weeks with another conversation. Thanks so much. Bye.